Hello and welcome to another session of Karen's Colours. I'm Dr. Karen and these are my colour conversations. Before we begin though, I'd like to welcome those of you who've been following these videos and hope that many more of you would start to show an interest, because colour analysis for a predictive purpose is far more in-depth than one would find with an tarot reading. Basically, colour readings allow you not only to have a look at what is going to happen, what has happened, and what is likely to occur for you, but it also gives you an option through the colours that are missed to determine just what sorts of things you might like to attempt in order to either change, modify, or enhance the particular reading that is there for you. So, to begin with, let's look at some of those colours that were missing for your month. Now, if the colour that was missing from your life was the colour black, then you could either have chosen it as a colour that you liked or that you disliked. Either way, the colour black encompasses within it all of the other colours that are available in a spectrum. Mix them all together in sufficient quantities and you will end up with black. What does it mean? Well, if you liked the colour black, chances are that you would have wanted to withdraw from society for a while, take some time out, and remove yourself from any sort of engagement that required you to be up front and centre. It's a difficult colour to like because it causes you to keep away from those things and those people that you normally would associate with. It also has a lot to do with keeping secrets. If, on the other hand, this was the colour that you most disliked, then this is because you did not want to be forced into a state of withdrawal, nor, for that matter, are you particularly interested in maintaining the distance that is required from the colour black, from other people, and engagement with other activities. It also means you're not particularly fond of people keeping secrets from you, and you probably would have spent a good amount of your time trying to discover just what those secrets were, because it is something that is uncomfortable for you. If you chose the colour white as a colour that you liked, that was missing from your reading, please note that, like black, white also contains with it all of the different colours that are available in the spectrum. But here we have a particular way of putting them together. If you mix them together in the right proportions, you will end up with clarity, with white. And for those of you who like the colour white, then this is an opportunity for you to get out there amongst it, to discover new things, to engage with new people and new experiences, and to potentially have a lot of fun. But it can also be a fairly scary colour. So it's asking you, if you like that colour, to go ahead and try something that you've never tried before, to overcome your fears and to move forward. On the other hand, if this was a colour that you disliked, then white is a shock. It's one that enables all sorts of terrifying imaginary things to happen to you, both within relationships and also in experiences. And by disliking white, you're actually trying to avoid the illumination that comes with too much information too quickly and with overpowering energy that prevents you from being able to understand just what is going on. If red was one of the colours missing from your repertoire and you chose it as the colour that you liked, then what you are saying about yourself is that it's time for you to take control of the things that are happening to you in your life. You might even find yourself doing some fairly abrupt things that you normally would shy away from. But if you chose red as the color that you liked, then you have chosen to engage with all of the energy that is available to you and to move forward. It is an energy that can be quite dangerous, but it can also be quite exciting in that it enables you to fall in love, for example. But it also causes you to take risks that you normally would not take. On the other hand, if red was a color that you were trying to avoid, in other words, you disliked that color, then in choosing it as the one to keep away from, you're actually asking yourself to retreat away from danger. Now, that danger may be as a result of something that you've done, or something that someone else has done to you, or a circumstance that you are trying to avoid. But red as a color that is disliked always has to do with the avoidance of interaction with the real world, interaction with authority, interaction with anything that you would perceive as being potentially dangerous. As a color of dislike, though, it also helps to build up frustrations and anger. So it's something that you are suppressing. And if it were to burst into the real world, you'd probably find that not only would you cause a challenge amongst those people and the situation where you normally exist, but you also would be putting yourself out there for other people to see. And red as a color of avoidance is always one that involves keeping away from danger. If yellow was one of the colors that was missing from your repertoire, and it was the color that you most liked, then here is an opportunity to find happiness, to find joy in life, to get out there and do something, learn something that will enable you to feel really good about the things that you have been doing, have been experiencing. Yellow always as a color of being liked has to do with joy and happiness and potentially success. It also draws towards you a fair degree of abundance as well. On the other hand, if it's the color that you most disliked, then there is a fair amount of fearfulness you need to overcome. A color that is disliked because it causes a challenge to the status quo within your life and within your relationships, as well as the situations and circumstances in which you find yourself. Yellow as disliked is a fearful color. It is one where you're trying to avoid learning things the hard way. And as such, it also causes you to spend a lot of money or get rid of some of your resources, which can be rather devastating if resource management is an issue for you. Now, if green was one of the colors missing from your repertoire and you chose it as the color that you most liked, then what we have here is a situation where you really want to get away from things. You can see that there are green pastures over there somewhere. You are quite entitled to attempt to get there, and you have every intention of doing so. Green as a liked color leaves you open to all sorts of new experiences, ones that will enable you to find peace, potentially, harmony, potentially, and also the sort of abundance that you're looking for in life. Green as a color that is liked has to do with taking a chance. And when you take that chance, you might just find yourself in an area or in a life that is far more open to all sorts of wonderful opportunities that you otherwise would never have seen. On the other hand, if green is a color that you dislike, chances are you've had a lot of opportunities closed down for you. You have gambled with certain abilities, certain circumstances, even with relationships, and they have come to pretty much nothing. Green as a disliked colour enables you to feel as though you're missing out on things, as though things that other people have achieved or other people have been given or whatever are things that are for some reason or other not available to you. And in that respect, it's a rather sad colour to have as a disliked colour, because it does offer abundance, but you just simply can't see them at the moment. If blue was one of the colours missing from your repertoire, and it was a colour that you most liked, then what we have here is the opportunity to find peace and comfort in everyday existence. Blue is all about doing the work that is necessary in orue to maintain your status quo. And in this respect, blue has to do with communication as well. So what you might have found yourself doing is actually talking to people that you might not previously have done so, and actually communicating at a level and at a depth that you would never ordinarily do with people. You might even have found yourself talking with strangers, but certainly this is the opportunity for you to find some sort of mutual communication by being able to get out there and speak with people, as well as being very helpful. Blue is always about help and guidance, and it's one of creating comfort because you have been able to be helpful to others as well as helping yourself to the various things that you need for your own equanimity. If blue is the colour that you most disliked, then what we have here is a situation where duty is something that you really don't want to be involved with. You're overburdened. You are trying very hard to avoid or escape from a situation of drudgery. Blue as a disliked colour has always to do with having to shut up, do as you're told, get on with the job, don't complain. And that feeling can be most upsetting and cause you to want to withdraw from people. In fact, blue is also a colour associated with withdrawal. If brown was one of the colours missing from your repertoire and you chose it as the one you most liked, then there is an opportunity here for you to have gotten out there, down and dirty, get practical, stop dreaming about the things that might be, and just get on with doing the things that not only can be, but that you are capable of doing. Brown as a light colour has often to do with gardening, with getting out there amongst nature, with just simply accepting the status quo. There's not much you can do about the weather, for example, or anything else that is happening extraneous to your own life, but just simply getting on with the things that have to be done because you are the ones with all the skills, all the practical abilities to be able to do those things. So in many respects, this is a colour of great solidity in terms of personality. If, on the other hand, it's the colour that you most disliked, then here we have a problem with too much wishing and hoping and thinking and praying and not enough actually getting out there and doing. So it's a colour that forces you into a situation where you are avoiding having to do the work that is revolving around the wishes and the plans and the objects and ideas that you have for what you want to achieve in life. Brown as a disliked colour is one of the very most common ones because most of us prefer to have things done a little bit easy. But as a disliked colour, this makes it very difficult for you to overcome that. I want what I want, but I don't really want to have to work hard for it. If orange was one of the colours that was missing from your repertoire and it was the colour that you most liked, then this is the opportunity to get out there amongst it and have a great deal of fun being a social person. Orange has to do with overcoming any feeling of crisis or inability to mix with others, to take on new challenges. Orange as a liked colour means that you have all of the ability and skill to be able to overcome whatever crisis or challenge is thrown at you. Orange as a liked colour speaks of confidence, of being able to feel as though you can do anything. There is a warning here, though. Often having to do anything also requires you to overcome a state of discontent, because orange is the opposite of blue, and whereas blue may lead to contentment, orange means that I'm going to throw things up in the air and I'm going to catch whatever falls down and deal with it. On the other hand, if orange was the colour that you most disliked, then here we have a crisis that is occurring internally. You are afraid of having to survive something that you feel is overwhelming. Orange internally is a lack of confidence, an inability to sort out those things that you need to do in order to be able to move forward with your life. So it's a case of being stuck to a certain extent when you dislike orange. Disliking orange will cause crisis to seem worse than it really is because you're not facing them. But by the same token, it also enables you to have some time to think carefully about what your actions are going to be, so that when you do finally do something in the real world to overcome your fears and these crises that are influencing you, you will be able to do so by acting on what you have decided is the best course of action. If one of the colours that is missing from your repertoire is grey, and it's a colour that you most liked, then here we have a situation in which you are treading a path between what you know and what you don't know. Grey has to do with uncertainty and confusion, but if it's a colour that is liked, it invariably enables you to go ahead and deal with that uncertainty and confusion by treading a middle path. It's a good colour for being able to deal with the novel, with new situations that you haven't met before, by drawing on information and knowledge that you already have deep inside and being able to adapt it to the new circumstances or relationships. On the other hand, if grey is the colour that you most disliked, then what we have here is a situation where you are feeling confused, where you're feeling uncertain, where you really don't know what you're going to do next, where experience and past knowledge are not coalescing into a form that enables you to move forward. So grey as a disliked colour will always lead you down the garden path towards nothing. But even as a disliked colour, it gives you that time out and that space that is necessary for you to come to a decision. If you didn't like the colour, then it means you don't particularly want to make that decision. But ultimately, grey says if you don't make a choice, it will be made for you. If purple was one of the colours that was missing from your repertoire, and it is the colour that you most liked, then here is the opportunity for you to make major changes in your life. Purple has all of the energy of red and all of the planning and practicality of blue. And so between those two colours, we end up with the power to get on with whatever you need to do. It's also childlike energy. So it's a case of let's do this for fun. So even though the adventure may seem a little daunting at first, If you like purple, then you are prepared to get out there and do things that you ordinarily would avoid doing, because you now know what to do and you have the energy to carry those plans through. On the other hand, if purple was the color that you most disliked, then here we have a problem with your own health normally. Purple is a color associated with healing, with making things better. And if you don't like that color, it means that there is an illness somewhere, either associated with your physical, emotional, or spiritual body, that needs to be healed in some way. But you are avoiding that. You are trying very hard not to be involved with those activities that are necessary for you to begin to feel better about yourself. Often, if purple is a disliked color, then it harks back to childhood traumas. There were problems with either or both of your parents that were unresolved, and now in the real world, you're finding yourself wanting to get away from those things, and it denotes sometimes even the urge to just pack up your goods and chattels and move on, because you hope that you won't be taking the past with you. Of course, as a disliked colour, that's a bit of a fool's errand. If pink was one of the colours missing from your repertoire, and it is the colour that was most liked, then you are in a situation where you are in love with everything and anything in the world. You are attracting all sorts of good intentions, but you're also giving out good intentions as well. But at the same time, pink is a rarefied form of red. So there is a distinct lack of energy. And in many situations, liking pink means that you are prepared to take on assistance from other people for whatever you need their help. Pink is the colour of ultimate love, but it's also the colour of ultimate vulnerability. So liking pink means that you are open for new relationships, particularly, but there is a warning here in that you also have an inability to prevent those relationships from taking over. So liking pink will bring those relationships towards you, but they may also bring you the sorts of relationships that are very difficult to extricate yourself from. On the other hand, if pink was the colour that you disliked, then you really don't enjoy having other people make decisions for you. You don't like being in a situation where you're not in control. And pink being also the colour associated with babies and newborn things, it makes you feel very infantile when other people take control of your life or push their ideas and their behaviours and their wishes and wants onto you. So disliking pink actually causes you to sometimes have temper tantrums in order to consolidate what little energy is left out of that red that has now been denatured into pink, and allow you to stamp your feet, yell if necessary, to make sure that people realise that you have some choices that you would like to have taken care of, rather than simply being the butt of everybody else's demands. If cyan is one of the colours that was missing from your repertoire, and it is a colour that you most liked, then you're in for an extremely quiet time, and one in which you have very little control over what is likely to happen. Things will seem to be at a standstill. Even though you like the colour and you don't mind the quiet life, it can actually be one in which you find yourself having to be at the beck and call of whatever fate is throwing in your direction. It can be very uncomfortable to like cyan because it requires you to not complain about the things that are adversely affecting you. So you will find yourself feeling calm and disconnected from things, even though some of the things that are happening around you ordinarily would have you up in arms and very upset about what's going on. Cyan as a light color is one that enables you to remain absolutely in a state of blissful unawareness almost of the things that are likely to be detrimental in your life. If it's the color that you most disliked, then you really can't stand the stagnation, the boredom, all of the quietness that comes from this particular color. Cyan, as disliked, causes you to feel highly frustrated, to be unable to make changes because everything is remaining the same. And you really want to get away from that, but have no way of organizing yourself to do so. So, how can you cope with cyan as a disliked color? Well, basically, you need just simply to get more sleep.
One of the most important things to remember when dealing with a color analysis is that the missing colors represent skills and attributes that need to be considered when doing a reading. The missing color that is most disliked always represents that skill that is the most difficult for you to deal with. It's the challenge in your life at that present time, and it needs to be overcome in order for you to be able to move on. In contrast, the color that is most liked is a default color, the color that represents the skill you would be most likely to adopt when those that are already in play, in other words, the ones that appear within the reading, are no longer effective. So by combining the two, the default color skill and the challenge color skill, you have an opportunity to move forward in a different direction to the one that you would normally proceed along. I wish you good luck with your color choices, and certainly hope that all of the colors that you have within your life are feeding you the type of experience that will make your life feel calm and prosperous and also extremely happy. Catch you next time. Bye.